A soldier was bitten by a mosquito, but it scared the two teammates next to him half to death. Because this wasn't an ordinary mosquito, it was a mutated one that had fed on zombie blood. Hello everyone, welcome back to your favorite zombie channel. Today we continue exploring lesser-known zombie films with House of the Dead 2. The story takes place at a university. A female student, after attending a party, was heading back to her dorm when a car suddenly hit her, sending her flying. The driver quickly got out to check if she was okay. To her surprise, the driver was none other than Professor Kurian from the school. The student said she was fine, but Kurian's expression suddenly changed. What seemed like an accident was in fact intentional. He stuffed Alicia into the trunk and secretly transported her to the school's laboratory. It turned out that Professor Kurian had been conducting secret experiments, developing a serum that could bring the dead back to life. And recently, his research had shown promising results. To test his success, Kurian targeted students on campus. Unfortunately for Alicia, she wasn't the only unlucky one. There was already a failed test subject in the lab. This person looked extremely abnormal, clearly mutated in some way. Kurian quickly began his second experiment, injecting Alicia with the serum. But after waiting a while, nothing happened. Frustrated, Kurian lost his temper, cursing in disbelief. The new serum had been improved. By all logic, it shouldn't have failed. But just as he was about to pack up his files in disappointment, he looked up and saw that Alicia was gone from the hospital bed. Could it be the experiment had succeeded? As Kurian secretly rejoiced, the next moment, zombie Alicia lunged at him from behind. With Kurian down, the zombie burst out of the lab and began a frenzy of attacks. No one was spared, not the librarians, not the athletes in the gym. To make matters worse, the zombified Kurian escaped the campus and ended up near a restaurant. A tired chef had just stepped out the back door for a quick bite. But as soon as he did, he spotted a strange figure. Before he could react, the zombie bit his arm. Panicked, the chef ran back to the kitchen and told the staff there was a crazy person outside who bites. Seeing how serious his injury was, the staff quickly called the police. Then, he went back to his work in the restaurant. A woman dining there noticed the blood on the waiter's sleeve and asked what had happened. The waiter immediately told her about the chef being bitten. As a scientist in the National Biosecurity Department, Alex immediately sensed that this was no ordinary incident. Sure enough, when she entered the kitchen, she found the chef collapsed on the floor, convulsing violently. The staff member, not knowing the danger, rushed forward to help. Just as Alex tried to stop him, the chef mutated into a zombie and attacked. After neutralizing the zombie, the police arrived. The bitten waiter was placed in the ambulance, and Alex's colleague Ellis came along as well. They frequently handled biohazard cases and decided to personally escort the injured staff to prevent any possible mutation. But unexpectedly, before they could reach the hospital, the staff member had already turned. Left with no choice, Ellis eliminated him. Alex and Ellis returned to headquarters. There they learned that a far more serious outbreak had erupted at a nearby university. To uncover the cause of the outbreak, they were given a new mission. Head to the school, recover the original virus sample for vaccine research, and rescue any survivors if possible. The orders were strict. The mission had to be completed before dawn. If they failed, the entire school would be bombed at 7 a.m. to prevent further spread. To ensure success, a battle-hardened Special Forces unit would accompany them. Colonel Dalton was the unit's commander. With time running out, the team immediately set out. They soon reached the university and prepared to advance on foot. It wasn't long before they encountered a zombie slowly approaching. Though the soldiers were experienced in combat, it was their first time facing zombies, so naturally they were a bit tense. Dalton, as the leader, couldn't show fear. Without hesitation, he drew his pistol and fired 2 shots, taking the zombie down. Just as he was about to finish it off, Ellis stopped him. Alex needed to extract a blood sample to check if it was the original virus. Unfortunately, the test showed it was a 3rd-generation zombie, useless for research. But the zombie's sharp teeth caught their attention. Clearly, it had evolved. After eliminating the zombie, the team pressed on. Suddenly, another zombie appeared, startling one soldier so badly he collapsed on the ground. Another soldier rushed to shoot, but the zombie knocked the gun from his hands. With no other choice, he was forced into hand-to-hand combat with the zombie. The rest of the team, afraid of friendly fire, didn't dare open fire recklessly. Relying on his agility, the soldier managed to take down the zombie with his bare hands, but his palm was accidentally scratched by the zombie's teeth. He thought it was just a minor injury and didn't take it seriously. But Alex immediately grew tense because she knew that even the smallest scratch could lead to infection. To prevent the virus from spreading, Dalton immediately ordered the soldier to be restrained, then drew his knife and cut off the soldier's arm on the spot. But it was already too late. The soldier mutated instantly and bit a medic. Seeing this, Ellis had no choice but to pull the trigger. And they hadn't even entered the campus yet. The team had already lost 2 soldiers. Things would only get more dangerous from here. The school gate was a mess, the atmosphere cold and eerie, sending chills down their spines. To save precious time, Dalton decided to split the team. Bart would take 2 female teammates, Henson and Rodriguez, to the dormitory to search for survivors, while the rest would head to locate the virus source and recover the original virus sample. As Bart's team entered the dormitory, they found a corpse in the hallway. Bart, ever greedy, even tried to take the wedding ring from the dead body. They continued upstairs, where the stairwell was a horrifying sight. Severed limbs scattered everywhere. Rookie Rodriguez couldn't hold it in and vomited her dinner on the spot. Meanwhile, Ellis's team reached the library, where they spotted a student from a distance. At a time like this, someone was still diligently studying. Griffin thought it was a survivor and wanted to approach. O'Connor warned him to be careful. Something was clearly off about that person. But Griffin was confident and insisted on going. As he got closer, fortunately, Ellis arrived just in time and shot the zombie. Griffin, furious, fired several more rounds into the body. But as he turned around, the mutated librarian, still dutiful, told them not to disturb the students. Ellis had to pull the trigger again. Alex quickly drew a blood sample for analysis and found it was a second-generation zombie. Close, but still not the original virus, so they continued down to the basement. Along the way, Griffin, taking rear guard, heard noises upstairs again. He insisted it was a survivor and wanted to check it out. Dalton told him to ignore it and keep moving, but Griffin disobeyed orders. The sound came again. When Griffin turned back, the others were already gone. He left the group, following the noise, and opened a door to find a shy young woman crouching in the corner. As expected, the kind-hearted Griffin fell right into the zombie's trap. Fortunately, Griffin was strong and managed to break free from the zombie's attack. But just as he bent to retrieve his weapon, the zombie lunged again. After a tough struggle, Griffin barely managed to lock the zombie in the room. Hearing the zombie slam against the door, the still-shaken Griffin was about to run, only to be met with another surprise. Meanwhile, the trio in the dorm also heard noises from one of the rooms. Kicking the door open, they found a naked zombie inside with a mutilated male corpse on the bed. Henson quickly shot the zombie, but Bart tossed a camera to Henson. Not only greedy, Bart was a pervert. He even wanted a selfie with the female zombie. His twisted behavior shocked Henson and Rodriguez. Seeing that Henson refused to help, Bart grabbed the camera and started taking selfies himself. But sharp-eyed Rodriguez noticed the door had been locked from the inside. So how did the woman get infected? While they were puzzled, Bart was suddenly bitten by a mosquito. That's when they realized the woman had been infected by the mosquito. Bart refused to accept it, but his condition was clearly deteriorating. Perhaps because the virus load from the mosquito was low, he hadn't mutated yet. Henson decided to leave Bart behind to fend for himself. But Bart was unwilling, greedy, lustful, and of course afraid of death. Tensions rose between them. Seeing the situation turning against him, Bart tried to bribe Henson and Rodriguez with $1 million to take him back. It turned out he had secretly partnered with a pharmaceutical company, aiming to acquire the original virus sample. The company promised him a hefty reward, which he planned to split with them. The company intended to develop a vaccine from the virus, secure a patent, and monopolize the market with sky-high prices. The offer sounded tempting. Rodriguez lowered her weapon. Bart thought his plan had succeeded and approached Henson smugly. But Bart didn't know Rodriguez was just acting. After knocking Bart unconscious, Henson and Rodriguez tied him to a radiator and kindly left him a pistol. At least he could choose how to die. Then, Henson and Rodriguez returned to the parking area to report their situation to headquarters. But to their surprise, the driver had also been attacked by zombies. Though he survived, the radio was destroyed. They could no longer contact HQ. The driver was clearly terrified and had forgotten to mention there was a zombie in the vehicle. By the time Henson noticed, it was too late. Rodriguez had already opened the door. Though Henson quickly dealt with the zombie, she couldn't save Rodriguez. Not wanting to turn into a monster, Rodriguez begged Henson to end her suffering immediately. At this moment, Alex's team had reached the basement, only to realize that Griffin hadn't followed them. But they couldn't worry about that now, because on the other side of the basement, there was a horde of zombies. The zombies were locked behind a fence as if someone had done it on purpose. 2 campus security guards' bodies lay on the ground. Clearly, it was them who had locked the zombies inside. No wonder they had only seen a few zombies along the way. The rest were trapped here. The arrival of Alex's team excited the zombies greatly. Worried that the fence wouldn't hold much longer, Ellis suggested they leave immediately. But just as they left, the guards on the floor mutated. Dalton, bringing up the rear, had no idea and was suddenly bitten on the shoulder by a zombie. In the chaos, Ellis fired a precise shot and took down the zombie, but Dalton was already infected. Dalton insisted he was fine, but his body soon began to convulse uncontrollably. Just before he could fully mutate, Alex shot him to end his suffering. The captain's death caused O'Connor to break down on the spot. But this was no place to linger. The zombies were about to break through the fence. Just as they turned to leave, they saw the exit swarming with zombies. Clearly, the gunfire had drawn them in. They quickly chose to retreat, but the zombies behind the fence had already broken out. With no way back, they had no choice but to fight head-on. Alex and Ellis unleashed a full barrage of firepower. Nearby, O'Connor didn't even get a shot off before he was ambushed by a zombie. He had no chance to fight back and was devoured on the spot. With more zombies than bullets, Alex and Ellis soon found themselves in a desperate situation. They were trapped in a narrow corridor, surrounded from both sides. At the critical moment, Alex noticed an electrical box on the wall and instantly came up with a plan. Before the zombies closed in, they quickly climbed onto the overhead pipes. Alex used her lighter to trigger the fire sprinklers, then shot the electrical box. A surge of electricity flooded the corridor, electrocuting the zombies below. With the crisis averted, Alex and Ellis finally reached the source of the outbreak, the secret lab where Curian had conducted his research. There, they encountered a young couple, Lonnie and Sarah, who had survived until now using handguns taken from the campus guards. From Lonnie and Sarah, they learned that this was the outbreak's origin and about the twisted Professor Curian's experiments on students. It turned out Lonnie and Sarah had once been Curian's assistants and knew even more secrets. They revealed that Curian had even stolen corpses from the morgue for his experiments. Lonnie then led Alex and Ellis to the room where the first test subject was being held. It was clear that this was the original zombie they had been searching for. All they needed now was a blood sample. Since Sarah had once worked for Curian, her fingerprints could easily unlock the door. Alex and Ellis carefully entered the room. As soon as the door closed, Ellis acted quickly and subdued the zombie. Alex immediately drew a blood sample. The equipment confirmed it was indeed the original zombie. Just as they were about to leave, disaster struck. A large group of zombies suddenly attacked. Lonnie and Sarah, caught off guard, were quickly overwhelmed. Worse still, Ellis, momentarily distracted, lost control of the zombie he was holding and was pinned beneath it. As Alex raised her gun to help, Ellis had already managed to pull the trigger and save himself. After leaving the lab, a gruesome scene greeted them. The two students were being devoured by zombies. Luckily, the feasting zombies didn't notice Alex and Ellis, allowing them to slip away unnoticed. But outside, they found even more zombies. With no other choice, they had to force their way out. Facing the swarming horde, they fought with everything they had. Just then, Henson and a soldier arrived in a military truck, right on time. With their help, Alex and Ellis fought their way through the crowd. Alex managed to jump onto the truck, but Ellis was swarmed by zombies. Though he managed to escape once the truck started moving, the virus sample he was carrying was lost. All their efforts were now in vain, but Ellis refused to give up. He decided to return to the lab for another sample. After barely breaking out of danger, Henson immediately refused. Because they not only had to face the zombies, but there was also less than half an hour left before the military would completely destroy the place. Even so, Ellis insisted on going back. Without the sample to develop a vaccine, they wouldn't be able to stop the virus from spreading, and more people would die. Without hesitation, Alex chose to support Ellis. At this point, Henson had no choice but to grit her teeth and follow them. This time, they didn't plan to go through the zombie-filled front entrance. Instead, they decided to take a detour and enter from the back. Along the way, they encountered some zombified athletes, but fortunately made it through safely. After successfully crossing the sports field, they arrived at the locker room in the gym. But to their surprise, there were zombies here too. As the zombies closed in, they had no choice but to hide inside a room. But as soon as they shut the door, a zombie lunged out from the restroom. Luckily, Henson reacted quickly and shot the zombie dead. Now they were trapped inside. The door wouldn't hold for long. Soon, the zombies would break through. At that moment, Ellis noticed an air vent in the restroom. But after Alex checked, she found it couldn't be opened from the inside. Ellis decided to go to the other side to open it, but how would he cross a locker room full of zombies? Thinking fast, Ellis came up with a bold idea. He smeared zombie blood all over himself, hoping to mask his scent. Once ready, Ellis mustered his courage and opened the door. Just as he had guessed, the zombies hunted by scent. Ellis successfully walked through the horde without triggering a reaction, but as he reached the other side of the vent, the zombies were about to break down the door. Fortunately, Ellis opened the vent just in time. As the zombies burst through, Henson and Alex crawled out to safety. After much hardship, they finally reached the lab. The zombies were gone, but zombified Lonnie attacked Henson. Alex quickly shot the zombie, but trouble struck again. Henson hadn't noticed a body behind her, and suddenly mutated. Sarah attacked her. This time, Henson wasn't so lucky. The bite on her leg was deep and fatal. After extracting a sample from the corpse, Henson urged them to leave quickly. Though reluctant, they knew Henson's fate was sealed. They had no choice but to leave. On their way back, they ran into another massive group of zombies. Out of bullets, they had to fight hand to hand. Soon, Alex was overwhelmed by the horde, and only Ellis barely managed to break through. At the same time, military missiles rained down, destroying the entire building in an instant. Having escaped, Ellis was about to leave when he saw a soldier's corpse on the ground. Strangely, the soldier hadn't been attacked by zombies. He had been shot. Confused, Ellis was caught off guard when Bart suddenly appeared with a pistol. It turned out Bart wasn't dead and had even killed his own teammate. To survive, Bart had sacrificed his own hand. But he was clearly on the verge of mutating, already showing signs of aggression. But even though he knew he didn't have much time left, Bart still threatened Ellis to hand over the virus sample so he could trade it with the pharmaceutical company for a reward. With Bart holding a gun, the unarmed Ellis had no choice but to comply. But after getting the sample, Bart wasn't planning to let Ellis go. Just as Bart raised his gun, a shot rang out. Bart collapsed. It was Alex who had saved Ellis. How had she survived? Ellis was stunned. Even in his final moments, Bart tried to drag them down with him. Though Ellis and Alex survived once again, the virus sample was lost yet again. With the school now destroyed, completing the mission was impossible. They could only drive away in a car, full of regret, but bombing the school hadn't stopped the virus. Zombies had overrun the entire city. But then again, if mosquitoes could spread the virus, would a vaccine really work? And that's the full story of House of the Dead 2. Dead Aim. Overall, it was a solid movie. Tight pacing and plenty of action. It had the blood and the flair, and it even introduced some fresh ideas not seen in other zombie films. For example, mosquitoes spreading the virus, and the outbreak starting in a school. The only downside was the overly invincible main characters. While the side characters died off too easily, the leads were practically unstoppable. Alright, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.